I'm Steph here at the Bead Shop. I thought it was about time I came out from behind the camera and actually introduced myself. For those people who have done workshops here before, you're probably very familiar with me. And for those who are maybe a bit further afield or yet to do a workshop, you can now put a face to the hands and voice. Today I'm going to do a fairly simple demonstration or tutorial based on a necklace that I wear quite a bit, and every time I wear it I get some sort of comments. You probably can't see it close up here, but I will put a larger image in for you. It's something that I did when I had a few leftover beads from a previous project. I thought, right, do some little right angle weave beads and then simply strung them onto a necklace. It was such a simple, quick make, and just to use up some beads I had left over in my stash. And every time I wear it, I would have a customer or colleague or friend say, oh, well, that's nice. So I thought, why not show you how to make it? Right, so I'm back behind the camera where I feel a little bit more comfortable. Apologies for the amount of earning I did during my introduction. My first one, and I'm sure I'll get used to it. So here is the necklace close up. So you can see it's just made up of 3 individual beads which I've threaded onto a thin curb chain, and it's just ready to wear, just like that. So this is the one necklace I get comments on regardless of what I wear it with, where I'm going wearing it, and someone always seems to make a comment. So I thought this was a great opportunity to show you how to do it. It really is as simple as I'm making it sound. And because one of my favourite Swarovski colours is a metallic blue 2 times, I thought I'd make my example in this. I'm using 0.25 Supplemax thread, which has the reel here. So it's a nice versatile thread, and I use it a lot for doing right angle weave because it just gives you a little bit of give once you've actually finished the piece. Because it's clear and quite tricky to see, I've just coloured the ends of the thread in with black marker pen. You could easily use a coloured nail varnish or any other colour of marker pen as long as it shows up against whatever beading mat you're using. These are 4mm XILIONs, which always fit together really nicely when you're working in right angle weave. My previous right angle weave bracelet using the Paradise Shine 2 times demonstrates just how nicely the XILIONs fit together. So before I ramble on any further, I'm going to get going. So you need just 12 beads for this project, and you start with 3 individual beads being threaded on. Let those sit down into the middle of your thread. My piece of thread is only about 30 centimetres long. You really don't need very much for each bead. And I always go for more thread than I think I need, regardless of what I'm doing, because it's always easier to trim off a bit of excess at the end rather than get close to the end and realise you've run out. So the next bead we're going to pick up is a crossover bead. And I always do this by picking up the bead and holding it close to the end and taking your other thread down in the opposite direction at the same time, creating your cross. And then when you pull the 2 ends, that will bring it down close to the other 3 beads and create your square. So now I'm going to pick up 1 bead on each thread. Let those drop down and sit next to the previous beads. Then pick up a new crossover bead. And you just do this 2 more times, so 1 on either side. And then once you've done this enough times that you've got 4 middle beads, so 1, 2, 3, 4, you know you don't need any more crossover beads, but what you do need is 1 more bead on either side of the thread. So I'm just going to pick those up. This is the formation of the beads so far. That's all 12 beads threaded on. And then to actually join our beading up to create a bead shape, so essentially making like a small tube of right angle weave, you take the threads through the very first bead as if it's a crossover. So both threads go through in opposite directions. I tend to keep my work flat at this stage so you can actually see what direction you're going in. So one down that way, and before pulling that all the way up I always thread the other one through so you can see what you're doing. Pull those two ends, that will automatically form your ball. So that's the end where you can thread chain through or cord, and that's the actual shape. So it's very easy to actually form it together. And then to just finish off the ends, all I'm going to do is tie small knots. So at the moment my threads are both coming out of this bead, one on this side, one on that side, and all I do to fasten off, keep a bit of tension, so I've got hold of this thread and holding on to the bead here so that nothing goes too loose, and then with this end I'm taking it underneath the thread in between the two beads that I'm exiting out of. So I've created a loop, you can see that there with this end, and I'm going to take the end of my thread through the loop, which creates a small knot, and making sure it's not getting caught over the top of another bead, I just get that into position and then pull it tight. So that's now created a very small knot just next to that bead, so it's quite subtle really. And then I weave this end through a couple of beads, just going where the thread's already been, so I'm not creating a strange shape by adding extra tension where it doesn't need to be. So it doesn't need to go through too many. I tend to do this at this stage, so tie one off and weave it through a few beads and then do the other one, so you don't end up picking up the wrong thread. And now I can turn this round and hold on to the thread I've already done, and I know this is the one that still needs knotting. And I'm going to do exactly the same again. And that is sufficient. I can now trim off these excess bits of thread. And you have a finished bead. Very, very simple. And you can do these in any shape, any colour. They work quite nicely when you have a mixture of colours like my example necklace. Obviously you can then tailor these to all your friends for gifts, different outfits, because you can obviously change those. You can also, if you have a thin enough chain, you could just have a series of beads made up and just thread them onto a chain before you go out. And you can have different things to match different items, different articles. And it's a very versatile design, so I got a little bit carried away and did several examples. This one is using 4mm 5000s in Crystal AB, very, very sparkly. And by using round beads rather than zillion beads, you end up with slightly larger gaps in between the beads, which meant that I could actually thread a silver-plated snake chain right through sort of the top corner. So I've gone in one side and out of the next side, and that creates a really nice, simple bead drop. Quite pretty. You don't have to thread, cord or chain directly through the beads. This one I have threaded a head pin up inside the bead. It's not focusing terribly well, there we go. Up inside the bead, and the top came out there. I've created a small loop and wrapped the excess, and then used a jump ring to attach it to cable chain, which again is very, very simple and elegant, but you actually have a dangling bead rather than a threaded bead to create a pendant. I've done the similar with some really elegant earrings there as well. The only difference here is when I've threaded them onto a head pin, I've first of all put one small bead, then my beaded bead, and another small bead, so you actually create a really nice diamond shape, which is really effective. And then created a loop above there and attached a head pin, a fish hook to the head pin. There we go. And these are 3mm Swarovski pearls, so you don't have to make ginormous beads. I think they're quite sweet and elegant and a really sensible size for earrings. But you don't have to keep it small either. I have made a nice chunky necklace. I'm quite a fan of this one. This is using 6mm pearls in the middle, then 5mm either side, then 4mm, creating graduated effect. And these again are Swarovski pearls. They are the red coral and mystic black, which look really nice together. I love the glossy pearls. And that's just threaded onto 2mm cord, 2mm leather cord with a sliding knot, so you can actually adjust the length. You don't have to have a clasp. And again, using the Swarovski gem pearls, I've done very similar design in just having 3 different colours together and threaded onto 2mm cotton cord with a clasp. So if you want a shorter necklace, that works quite nice. And the colours of the gem themed pearls are lovely and perfect for sort of spring. Although I know we're in the depths of winter at the moment, it's nice to think about brighter colours. And this one is rather nice. By mixing XILION beads and pearls together, they actually fit quite nicely next to each other. And then I've just threaded this onto bead-along wire. I added a single bead either side and crimp so they don't slide around. And I think the colour of Pacific Green Opal is absolutely lovely, and I've just teamed that with the new grey pastel pearls from Swarovski as well. And one more is a striped bead. So this is quite fun. I just thought I'd have a go, see what happens. Stripes aren't showing up quite as well as they do in real life on camera, but I've just done that simply by adding sort of diagonal stripes into the right angle weave to begin with, and I've just set that up so you can see where the beads were positioned before it was all zipped together. It's just missing one purple bead on that side, so it's just diagonal, so that's your crossover, one of each colour on each side, then swapping to turquoise, then purple and turquoise, and back to purple, and there you have it, and you get the striped bead. So you can see there's lots you can do with this very, very simple design, and it's the perfect thing for stash busting. And I've had great fun making loads and loads of beads, and I hope you do as well. All the ingredients I've used for each of the examples I'm going to list below the video, so that if you're curious about what colour I've used or what thread I've used and what I've strung things on, it will all be there.